Lost in Space arrived on television screens in 1965 and instantly transformed a simple family adventure into an epic tale of exploration and human resilience. Viewers settled in expecting charming domestic drama but were instead swept away by the Robinson family's battle for survival against volcanic eruptions, frozen wastelands, and the unpredictable void of space. The show earned acclaim for its vivid color effects and haunting musical theme that underscored every moment of peril and hope. Audiences fell in love with Dr. John Robinson's steadfast leadership and Dr. Maureen Robinson's unwavering compassion. They cheered young Will Robinson's fearless curiosity and recoiled at Dr. Zachary Smith's cunning betrayals. Lost in Space became a cultural touchstone that inspired wonder in every home it reached. Behind the polished sets and gleaming consoles, however, lay hidden dramas that few fans ever saw. The actors endured marathon shooting schedules under intense studio lights and wrestled with cumbersome protective suits that bruised their bodies and tested their endurance. Tensions simmered in crowded makeup trailers as friendships formed and quietly fractured beneath the pressure of becoming overnight sensations. Secret romances flickered into existence only to burn out under the unforgiving gaze of Hollywood gossip. Some performers battled illnesses and financial struggles in private while delivering performances that appeared effortless on screen. Rumors of on-set rivalries and whispered scandals hint at a more complicated legacy behind the scenes. These untold stories ask unsettling questions about the price of fame and the sacrifices required to bring a fantastical world to life. What personal costs did the cast endure for a moment in the spotlight? What scandals threatened to split the ensemble, and how did hidden struggles shape the characters we still adore? What are these actors doing now? Have they found peace away from the glare of studio lights, or have their voices faded into the vastness of forgotten memory? If you are intrigued by the mysteries that lie beyond every thrilling episode and want to uncover the real lives of the pioneers who risked everything for a leap into the unknown, subscribe to our channel and join us as we reveal the triumphs, tragedies, and secrets of those who made Lost in Space an unforgettable journey. Guy Williams, 1924 to 1989. Guy Williams stepped into the studios of Los Angeles as John Williams Gunderson but emerged on screen as Dr. John Robinson, a figure whose steady resolve became the bedrock of every harrowing adventure. Born on January 14, 1924, into a scholarly New York household, he was the son of a college professor and a devoted mother who instilled in him a sense of dignity and perseverance. As a young man, he pursued higher education but found his passion lured him to performance, where his natural gravitas and quiet strength caught the attention of casting directors looking for a commanding presence. When Lost in Space began filming in 1965, Guy was 41. He had already logged years of supporting roles in westerns and adventure serials, earning respect for his discipline and integrity. On the first day he donned the heavy space suit that would bruise his shoulders and compress his chest. He arrived with a calm determination that inspired the entire ensemble. The show's creator saw in him the ideal leader, someone who could balance paternal warmth with decisive action when volcanic storms erupted or their hull threatened to fracture. His portrayal earned immediate praise from critics who admired the nuance he brought to a character tested by unrelenting trials. Viewers saw not only a heroic father but a man struggling with doubt and fear, a combination that made his triumphs feel all the more triumphant. Off-camera, the demands were brutal. 12-hour shooting days under searing lights left him drained, yet he resisted shortcuts, insisting on perfection even when budget constraints and tight schedules forced hasty rewrites. Rumors circulated of heated exchanges with producers who wanted sensational plot twists, but Guy refused to compromise the integrity of his character. After the series concluded in 1968, he faced the same typecasting that trapped many stars of genre television. Offers poured in for similar roles, but he craved new challenges. He turned down major studio projects to tour regional theaters, seeking the creative depth he feared television could not provide. This period of reinvention earned him both admiration and criticism. Some fans felt abandoned, longing for more Robinson adventures, while others lauded his courage to step away from fame. In his private life, Guy married a fellow actor whose early support proved vital during the grueling production years. They raised 2 children, and he often spoke of fatherhood as his greatest role. Yet the shadow of Lost in Space persisted. Invitations to fan conventions and reunion events tempted him back into the public eye, but he cherished the privacy he had won. He lived his final years quietly, mentoring young actors and reflecting on a career that had soared to cosmic heights and then gently descended into personal fulfillment. Guy passed away on April 7, 1989, at the age of 65, the result of complications from a heart condition he had battled privately for years. Jonathan Harris, 1914 to 2002. Jonathan Harris was born on November 28, 1914, in New York City to immigrant parents who instilled in him a fierce devotion to the performing arts. His childhood was framed by the shadows of early loss when his father passed away while Jonathan was still a boy. He found solace and purpose on theater stages where his flair for dramatic expression quickly set him apart. By the time Lost in Space began production in 1965, he was 51 and already a seasoned character actor with credits spanning radio dramas, Broadway productions and Hollywood screens. Stepping into the role of Dr. Zachary Smith, Jonathan transformed what could have been a villainous footnote into television's most mesmerizing anti-hero. His sly smile and theatrical declamations disguised a deep-seated frustration with being forever bound to a single iconic part. On set, he delighted in improvising lines that sent ripples of tension and laughter through the cast, yet behind closed doors he grappled with the fear of typecasting. Casting directors came knocking after the series wrapped, only to pigeonhole him in roles that echoed Smith's cunning. As Dr. Smith, he reveled in crafting each scheme with relish, yet privately he endured bouts of loneliness and doubt. Industry gossip whispered of clashes with writers over the character's trajectory, and rumors swirled that he resented the show's emphasis on sensational action over nuanced character work. Despite the creative tension, he never failed to deliver performances that blended menace with a peculiar vulnerability. Fans admired his ability to drive the plot toward chaos while somehow keeping viewers enthralled with his slowed speech and exaggerated mannerisms. After Lost in Space ended in 1968, his career followed a rocky path. He accepted guest spots and voice work but always felt the shadow of Smith looming over his ambitions. Colleagues recall him retreating to Europe in the mid-70s seeking fresh roles, yet finding only fleeting success. His private life was colored by 2 brief marriages that ended amicably yet left him wary of intimacy. Close friends remember Jonathan as a generous spirit in moments of camaraderie, yet guarded and solitary when the cameras were off. He passed away on November 3, 2002, at the age of 87 following complications from a stroke he kept private until his final days. His departure marked the end of an era for a performer who dared to take a cliché and transform it into something unforgettable. He leaves behind a legacy of inspired villainy and a cautionary tale about the cost of extraordinary success. Mark Goddard, 1936 to 2023. Mark Goddard first stepped into the world as Charles Harvey Goddard on July 24, 1936, in Lowell, Massachusetts. The son of a high school teacher and a small business owner, he grew up valuing hard work and intellectual curiosity. His childhood was marked by afternoons spent devouring science fiction novels and evenings helping his father build model rockets in the family garage. By the time he enrolled at Ringe Technical High School, he had already decided that his future lay beyond gravity's pull. At age 28, he auditioned for the role of Major Don West in the fledgling Lost in Space series. Producers saw in him a natural blend of swagger and sincerity, perfect for a pilot who would charm and protect the Robinson crew. Don's quick humor and unshakable loyalty made him an instant fan favorite, and critics praised Mark's ease in negotiating action sequences and emotional scenes alike. The heavy flight suit and throttle-heavy cockpit offered real challenges, yet he threw himself into the physical demands with quiet determination. Behind the camera, Mark faced battles no script could capture. The series' exploding budgets left him unpaid for weeks at a time, fueling rumors of tension between the cast and production executives. He refused to accept cut checks and formed a quiet pact with co-stars to demand fair compensation. This stand brought him respect among peers but also fueled whispers that he was difficult to work with. Romance bloomed on set when he grew close to a guest actress. Their brief affair left the studio buzzing and strained friendships within the tight-knit ensemble. He never denied the scandal but later admitted that the intensity of early fame transformed youthful passion into public spectacle. When Lost in Space wrapped in 1968, Mark faced the unforgiving pull of typecasting. Hollywood saw him only as the daring pilot, and offers for other roles dried up. He moved to New York to pursue stage work where he rediscovered his love for live performance. Midway through the 70s he battled a painful car accident that kept him from the stage for months. Medical bills mounted and he took small television roles to stay afloat. Fans remember him for guest spots on popular shows, yet few knew the nights he spent pacing hospital corridors worried for his future. In his private life he married twice and became a devoted father to 2 sons. His children recall a father who taught them astronomy by night and poetry by day. Despite personal triumphs, he sometimes battled depression in silence, fearing that public vulnerability would overshadow his professional comeback. In later years he embraced conventions and fan gatherings where he found solace in the community that never forgot Major Don West. His final curtain came on October 10, 2023, after a brief but fierce battle with cancer. Surrounded by family and friends, he faced his last flight with the same courage that defined his character on screen. Bob May, 1939 to 2009. Bob May entered the world on February 10, 1939, in Kansas City, Missouri, the only child of a factory worker father and a schoolteacher mother who encouraged his boundless imagination. As a boy he roamed local theaters and magic shows, training himself in physical comedy and mime. His slender frame and expressive face made him a natural in pantomime troupes throughout the Midwest. At 26 he answered an open call for Lost in Space and won the grueling audition to portray the silent but endearing robot B-9, the metal guardian whose very stillness concealed a spark of humanity. On set May endured punishing conditions. The bulky fiberglass and rubber suit weighed over 80 pounds, its rigid joints rubbing raw against his skin with each forced movement. He spent hours daily performing inside the sweltering costume, relying on his background in mimicry to convey emotion without a single facial expression. When he emerged at day's end, the suit left bruised shoulders and claustrophobic anxiety in its wake. Crew members recall May's unwavering professionalism even when malfunctioning hydraulics caused violent snaps that jostled him like a marionette gone rogue. Despite these hardships, his performance resonated. Audiences soon fell in love with the robot's gentle protectiveness and dry wit, captured entirely through May's physical mastery. Critics hailed the silent actor's work as a breakthrough in nonverbal storytelling on television. Yet behind the scenes May faced bitterness over the lack of recognition and royalties. He was paid a flat weekly rate with no additional compensation for the show's syndication success. Rumors circulated that he once confronted production over profit shares, only to be politely sidelined and offered small guest roles as a consolation. After Lost in Space concluded in 1968, May's career shifted toward guest appearances in low-budget sci-fi films and theme park robotics demonstrations. He lent his robot suit to fan conventions but rarely spoke in public about the emotional toll of the role. Privately he wrestled with feelings of invisibility, celebrated by viewers yet overlooked by the industry. A brief engagement in the early 70s to a fellow performer ended in heartbreak when he discovered she had used their relationship for publicity stunts, fueling his distrust of show business relationships. In the decades that followed he embraced teaching mime and physical theater to children, finding solace in passing on the art that had once brought him fame. He married late and became a devoted stepfather, drawing pride from guided tours of his beloved robot at science exhibitions. Yet he never fully escaped the shadow of B9's legacy. Interviews in the 80s and 90s show a wistful man who cherished the robot's enduring appeal but mourned the opportunities lost to typecasting. Bob May passed away on January 18, 2009, at the age of 69 after complications from a respiratory illness. His final years were spent quietly in Southern California, surrounded by family and former students. Though his face was never seen, his spirit lives on every time Robot B9's mechanical whir echoes through. Dick Neufeld, 1926–2012. Dick Neufeld brought the metal frame of Robot B9 to life with a voice that crackled with warmth and authority. Born December 11, 1926, in Los Angeles to first-generation immigrant parents, he grew up amid the city's golden age of radio drama, where his resonant tones found their earliest stage. By 1965, at age 38, he had already built a reputation as a versatile announcer and narrator. When Lost in Space launched, he was recruited to lend the robot its unforgettable voice, a decision that would etch his baritone into television history. Recording sessions took place in a cramped sound booth, where Cheufeld delivered each line in long, uninterrupted takes. He infused "Warning, Will Robinson" with genuine concern, turning a simple safety alert into an emotional anchor for viewers. Yet his off-camera life contrasted sharply with the calm assurance he projected. He quietly battled the frustration of remaining unseen, his face unfamiliar to the millions who adored his voice. Industry whispers spoke of missed on-screen opportunities and unfulfilled ambitions beyond narration. Following the show's end in 1968, Cheufeld continued a steady career in voiceover work, from commercials to documentaries, but the shadow of Robot B9 hovered over every project. He resisted calls to alter his signature style yet found himself pigeonholed, much like the very characters he had helped to animate. Personal struggles with health issues began in the late 1980s and intensified over time. He maintained a private life with his wife of 4 decades and their 2 children, seldom speaking of his battles until friends noticed his fading vigor. On March 22, 2012, Dick Cheufeld passed away from complications related to a chronic respiratory condition. He was 85 years old. His final recordings, archived in countless households, continue to resonate whenever the robot's warning echoes through living rooms. His legacy reminds us that sometimes the most powerful performances come not from what we see on screen but from the voices that stir our emotions far beyond the image. John Carradine, 1906 to 1988. John Carradine was born on February 5, 1906, in New York City, the eldest of 5 siblings in a family that struggled through financial hardship. His father walked out when John was a boy and his mother took on multiple jobs to keep the family afloat. Carradine found escape on the stage, performing Shakespeare in local theater troupes by his late teens. His deep voice and intense presence led him to Hollywood, where he became one of the most prolific character actors of the 20th century long before Lost in Space called on him to play a mysterious guest star. When he arrived on the Jupiter 2 set in 1967, John was 61 years old and already carried decades of experience in film and television. His worn features and gravelly voice lent an air of ancient wisdom to brief but memorable roles. In the episode he portrayed a stargazer whose obsession with celestial prophecy threatened to unravel the crew's fragile unity. Critics praised his ability to infuse a short appearance with gravitas, yet rumors behind the scenes painted a portrait of a man grappling with loneliness and regret. Fellow actors recall his reluctance to socialize, preferring long walks alone under the California sky rather than the camaraderie of cast parties. Off-camera, Carradine weathered personal storms that mirrored his character's inner turmoil. He married 5 times and fathered more than 10 children in relationships marked by passion and conflict. Financial troubles dogged him through much of his career despite his constant work ethic. Colleagues whisper of tense confrontations when he felt underpaid or undervalued on set. He refused to compromise on the quality of his performance even when directors urged hasty shooting. His insistence on multiple takes sometimes frustrated production crews under tight schedules and strained the goodwill of producers eager to stay on budget. After his Lost in Space appearance, Carradine returned to a whirlwind of supporting roles in westerns, horror films, and Shakespeare adaptations. Each part reflected his relentless drive to explore the darker corners of the human psyche. Yet his personal battles with isolation and uneven income remained hidden beneath layers of acclaim. In his later years he sought refuge in painting and poetry, creating private worlds far removed from Hollywood's glare. On November 27, 1988, at age 82, he passed away quietly at home following complications from pneumonia. His departure closed the final chapter on a life defined by extremes of creativity and hardship and left behind a legacy of performances that continue to haunt screens decades later. Michael Ansara, 1922 to 2013. Michael Ansara was born on April 15, 1922, in the drought-stricken plains of Providence, Rhode Island, to Lebanese immigrant parents who worked tirelessly to support their large family. From early childhood he felt the call of performance, honing his baritone voice and tall, commanding presence in local church plays and high school theater. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II, an experience that deepened his sense of discipline and world weariness, qualities he would later channel into complex on-screen roles. By the time Lost in Space began production in 1965, Michael was 43 and already recognized for his versatility in westerns, historical epics, and television dramas. When he auditioned for the part of an alien overlord in a standout episode, producers were struck by his fluid physicality and the intensity lurking behind his calm exterior. Transforming into his character required hours of makeup, darkened eyebrows, subtle prosthetic accents, and a wardrobe of layered silks that weighed heavy yet moved with surprising grace. On screen he embodied otherworldly authority, his cold gaze and clipped speech leaving viewers riveted. Critics lauded his performance as one of the show's most memorable guest turns, praising the way he balanced regal poise with menacing unpredictability. Behind the scenes, however, Michael confronted frustration over the limited scope of guest appearances. His peers recall his eagerness to expand the character's backstory, only to face network demands for brevity and spectacle. He chafed at the idea of delivering a one-off villain and quietly lobbied for a multi-episode arc, ambition that earned him begrudging admiration from co-stars and wary regard from studio executives. After Lost in Space wrapped in 1968, Michael's career continued along a winding path. He secured recurring roles in series like The Twilight Zone and Mannix, but the industry's typecasting machinery often relegated him to exotic or antagonistic parts. A brief marriage to a fellow actress ended amid rumors of infidelity and clashing schedules. Friends remember him as generous and warm off-camera, yet fiercely private about his romantic life. Financial ups and downs followed him into the 1970s, when a failed Broadway venture forced him to return to television just to stay afloat. In later years, Michael embraced his status as a cult favorite, attending fan conventions where he shared behind-the-scenes tales of prosthetic nightmares and midnight script rewrites. He spoke candidly about the physical toll of studio sets that weren't built for comfort and the emotional strain of inhabiting roles that veered between heroism and villainy. Yet he took pride in the legacy he left, a demonstration of how a guest actor could make an indelible mark on a beloved series. Michael Ansara passed away on July 31, 2013, at the age of 91, following complications from Alzheimer's disease, a private battle he kept largely out of the spotlight. His departure closed a chapter on a career defined by transformative performances and unyielding dedication. Every time his character's silhouette flickers across the screen, we are reminded not only of his talent but of the hidden sacrifices behind the scenes, the long makeup sessions, the creative disputes, and the unwavering commitment to bring other worlds to life. Ted Cassidy, 1932 to 1979. Ted Cassidy was born on July 31, 1932, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to a working-class family that valued hard work and community. From his earliest years he towered over his peers, reaching 6 feet 3 inches by age 12, a stature that made him stand out in school and later drew him to roles demanding commanding physical presence. He discovered a love for performance at Duquesne University, where he studied English and theology, but it was his deep, resonant voice and impressive height that pointed him toward a career in entertainment. By the time Lost in Space began filming in 1966, Ted was 34 years old and already known to television audiences as the formidable lurch on the Addams Family. His casting as a menacing alien sentry in one episode challenged him to expand his repertoire. Covered head to toe in alien prosthetics and costuming, he embraced the physical demands of the role, using every inch of his 6'9" frame to convey both alien otherness and a hidden vulnerability. The transformation required hours in makeup, during which he would crack jokes with crew members to lighten the oppressive heat under studio lights and ease the tension of a long day's shoot. On screen, his performance drew praise for its surprising nuance. While his character's alien intent was clear, Cassidy infused subtle gestures, an unexpected tilt of the head or a momentary hesitation that hinted at inner conflict. Critics noted that he managed to make a guest appearance feel integral to the larger story arc. Behind the scenes, he navigated the struggle of being forever linked to larger-than-life figures. He joked that he carried his height like a burden when auditioning for roles, yet he admitted privately that his physicality offered unique opportunities no other actor might receive. After Lost in Space concluded in 1968, Ted's career continued to intersect with fantasy and science fiction. He provided the booming voice of the original Batman narrator for the Filmation cartoons and made guest appearances in shows like Mission Impossible and The $6 Million Man. Yet the specter of typecasting followed him. Directors saw him primarily as the gentle giant or the intimidating brute, never fully escaping the shadow of Lurch or his alien guise. In his personal life, Ted married twice and fathered 2 children, whom he adored and often brought to the set to share in the magic of television production. Friends remember him as generous and self-deprecating, a man who never let success eclipse his humility. Tragically, on January 16, 1979, Ted Cassidy suffered a heart attack at the age of 46, a sudden end that stunned colleagues and fans alike. His passing underscored the fragility of the men who bring fantasy to life. In the years since, conventions and fan tributes have celebrated his unique contributions to genre television, remembering him not only for his imposing frame and iconic roles but for the warmth and professionalism he carried into every performance. Wally Cox, 1924–1973. Wally Cox was born on December 6, 1924 into a humble household in Detroit where his father worked in a factory and his mother cared for 2 siblings. From an early age his slight frame and gentle demeanor set him apart from boisterous classmates, but it was his quick wit and love of books that revealed a spark of brilliance. After serving in the Army during World War II, he studied sociology at New York University and discovered an unexpected talent for comedy while performing in campus reviews. His soft voice and unassuming presence earned him a starring role in the television series Mr. Peepers, where he portrayed a shy science teacher beloved by audiences nationwide. When Lost in Space called on him in 1967, Wally was 42 and already a veteran of stage and screen. He arrived to play Tiabo, a young inhabitant of a remote planet whose gentle wisdom offers the Robinsons a chance to heal fractured trust. On set he found himself under heavy makeup and primitive prosthetics that softened his features even further. He threw himself into the role with the same warm sincerity that defined his earlier work, transforming an alien visitor into a mirror of human kindness. Critics praised his ability to convey depth through a handful of scenes, highlighting how his quiet earnestness stood in stark contrast to the show's frequent explosions and betrayals. Behind the scenes, Wally wrestled with the clash between his natural introversion and the demands of science fiction spectacle. He resisted demands to exaggerate his mannerisms for dramatic effect, insisting instead on subtle gestures and genuine reactions. Co-stars recall him retreating into a corner between takes, poring over lines with meticulous care even as cameras idled. Rumors whispered through the crew about his struggles with loneliness. Despite on-screen warmth, he often felt isolated by the sudden fame that accompanied each guest appearance. Friends later revealed that he battled persistent insecurity, convinced that his success as a television lead was an illusion bound to shatter. After his Lost in Space episode aired, Wally returned to voice work, lending his distinctive tone to cartoons such as Underdog and creating memorable characters far removed from the dangers of outer space. His later career included stage performances and guest roles that showcased his versatility, yet he remained haunted by the typecasting that followed him from gentle schoolteacher to soft-spoken alien. He never married and lived alone in a modest apartment, collecting books and records that reflected his eclectic interests. Close friends describe evenings spent in deep conversation about philosophy and art, a sharp contrast to the bright lights of television studios. In the spring of 1973, Wally suffered a fatal heart attack at the age of 48. His sudden departure shocked colleagues who remembered him as tender-hearted and endlessly curious. His final years, marked by both creative triumphs and personal struggle, underscore the fragile balance between public acclaim and private torment. Every time a modern viewer watches Tiabo extend a hand of friendship across alien ruins, we are reminded not only of Wally Cox's singular talent but also of the quiet courage it took to bring gentle humanity to the unforgiving frontier of space. Peter Brocco, 1909–1992. Peter Brocco was born on January 16, 1909, in Hartford, Connecticut, into a family of modest means. His father worked as a postal clerk and his mother taught elementary school. From a young age, Peter found solace in literature and school plays, often slipping backstage at local theaters to watch actors transform. He pursued drama at the Goodman School of Drama in Chicago, where his talent for subtle character work, an ability to convey emotion through a glance or posture, began to emerge. By the time Lost in Space began filming in 1965, Peter was 56 and already a fixture in Hollywood's character actor community. He had appeared in hundreds of television episodes and films, often cast as kindly mentors or quietly dangerous villains. When producers invited him to play Claymore, a wounded alien whose cryptic warnings tested the Robinsons' resolve, they knew they could rely on Peter's capacity to infuse depth into a role that might otherwise be dismissed. On set, Peter approached the part with meticulous care. He spent hours studying the script to capture Claymore's wounded pride and lingering hope. The makeup department applied subtle facial prosthetics to age him further and lend a reptilian sheen to his skin. Peter greeted each session with a steady professionalism, offering younger co-stars guidance on pacing and emotional authenticity. Critics later noted that despite Claymore's brief appearance, his scenes crackled with genuine poignancy, highlighting the theme that even the most alien among us still share universal fears and longings. Off-camera, however, Peter faced a quieter struggle. Though respected within the acting community, he battled a persistent sense of invisibility. His face was immediately recognizable, yet his name seldom remembered by audiences. Financial stability proved elusive in the fluctuating world of freelance acting. Friends recall Peter arriving on set in threadbare coats, carrying his own scripts and even sharing lunches with crew members when catering lines grew long. He never complained, but those small acts of solidarity revealed a humility shaped by years of professional uncertainty. Peter's private life was marked by a lifelong devotion to his craft and a deep love for classical music. He never married but maintained a close circle of friends, fellow actors, costume designers, and sound engineers, who described him as generous, soft-spoken, and endlessly curious about the world. Rumors suggest he once turned down a steady studio contract rather than sacrifice his artistic freedom, a decision that underscored his commitment to roles he believed in, no matter how small. After Lost in Space wrapped in 1968, Peter continued to work in television and stage, taking on roles that ranged from kindly elders to scheming officials. Though his career never reached the heights of leading stardom, he remained a beloved figure among colleagues for his warmth and mentorship. His final screen appearance came in 1987, and in the years that followed he quietly mentored young actors at a community theater in Santa Monica. On December 20, 1992, Peter Brocco passed away at the age of 83 after a brief battle with pneumonia. His death passed without fanfare, yet those who knew him remember a man whose grace under pressure and unwavering devotion to storytelling left an indelible mark on every set he graced. Today, when we revisit Claymore's haunting farewell to the Robinsons, we honor not just a memorable performance but the humble passion of an actor who dedicated his life to giving voice to the unseen corners of the human experience. In revisiting Lost in Space, we see more than a pioneering series of daring rescues and otherworldly encounters. We uncover a tapestry woven from the triumphs and tragedies of 10 remarkable actors who ventured far beyond Earth's atmosphere only to confront personal battles no special effect could disguise. From the steady leadership of Guy Williams to the charismatic menace of Jonathan Harris, each performer poured heart and soul into roles that tested their endurance and shaped their legacies. Major Don West's swagger masked Mark Goddard's stand for fair treatment. Bob May endured crushing heat inside Robot B9's armor, while Dick Tufeld lent that metal guardian a voice brimming with genuine concern. John Carradine brought weathered wisdom to fleeting appearances even as he wrestled with isolation. Michael Ansara chafed against one-off villainy and longed for a deeper arc. Ted Cassidy navigated the burdens of fame with grace. Wally Cox infused alien grace with human warmth despite private solitude. Peter Brocco remained a humble craftsman, elevating every scene through quiet intensity. Some of these actors found fresh purpose after the final curtain. Guy Williams retreated to intimate theater and mentorship. Mark Goddard reinvented himself on stage. Bob May taught mime and physical theater to children. Others struggled to escape the gravitational pull of typecasting. Jonathan Harris saw his greatest triumph become his heaviest burden. Michael Ansara and Ted Cassidy fought to expand their range beyond iconic one-off roles. Wally Cox and John Carradine weathered loneliness and financial uncertainty despite acclaim. Their final exits remind us that success on screen does not guarantee peace of mind or lasting security behind the scenes. Lost in Space remains a testament to imagination, yet its true power lies in the human stories behind every line of dialogue, every laborious take, every whispered feud and secret romance. The show's legacy extends beyond sci-fi spectacle to a lesson in resilience, creative integrity, and the hidden costs of fame. Who emerged stronger in its wake, who walked away changed, who found solace and who remained haunted by unfulfilled promise? These questions linger as sharply as the robot's famous warning. If you have felt the thrill of each cliffhanger and wondered what became of the faces you recognized under layers of makeup and steel, subscribe to our channel. We will continue to explore the untold chapters of your favorite films and series, shining a light on the triumphs and turmoil that shaped entertainment history. Join us for more revelations, controversies, and heartfelt stories waiting just beyond the final frontier.